Je tiens tout d'abord à remercier les organisateurs de ce congrès.
First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of this Congress for inviting me to participate and provide my contribution. The dating of the shrouds of Turin through its concentration of carbon the dating of the Shroud of Turin through its concentration of carbon-14 was expected by all of those who are interested in this relic, and in particular by those working groups which studied it carefully for many decades. The communication of results of measurements carried out with a given precision could have concluded the discussion as to the date, the age of the thread and the tissue and the fabric. It was not like this, however, and the controversy in a way increased. It would be quite simple to attribute this challenging to just the few who are doubtful about the authenticity of the shroud, without maintaining that the science is not enough. Many elements make us wonder about the age. I like to just hint at the lacks from the point of view of transparency before, during and after the experiments. These lacks were exposed or explained quite precisely during the opening of this Congress. So I would just directly move to the errors or mistakes of interpretations of the results, which are the consequences of the lack of interdisciplinary consultation. The scientific method, in a way, was mistreated. One single result obtained through one single technique was superior to all of the assumptions worked out in the next decade. So no mention was made of history, fabric and pollens. Just one measure was decisive both at scientific and mass media level. So dating was mixed or confused with date or age. This had an interdisciplinary character, and in most of the datings previous to carbon-14, mention was made of the opinions of historians and the archaeologists involved in that, and this opinion was considered an essential one. I'd like to simply mention here the conclusions drawn by authors who published a book in 1986, 2 years before the experiment on the shroud. This conclusion is quite interesting, since the work is the result of cooperation between two internationally known labs. One of them, the Wölfli lab in Zurich, was one of the 3 labs chosen for the experiment with carbon-14. Their conclusions deserve to be mentioned here. I'd like to, but at the same time, I would like to show you one slide. As a matter of fact, I'd like everybody to be able to read my translation from English into French with reference to the original text, so that you all can check that I did not betray the text. I'm going to read the conclusions of this work carried out in 1986 on the organic matter, which was studied both through thermoluminescence and through the carbon-14 method. This is the conclusions drawn by authors Mr. Wölfli and Mr. Bonanni. Signed also the article on Nature relating to the Shroud of Turin. though dating methods are well developed and efficient, disagreements between calculated dates are clear from the archaeological point of view. Problems, therefore, are not the result of the quality of lab measurements, but are due to the sites of sampling. The existence of meaningful mistakes of undetermined size cannot be excluded from dating. Whatever it is, no method is safe from grossly wrong dates when there are unknown problems as to the sample taken. Our results which we have a fragment here, can tell us that this situation can occur quite often. The conclusion is that the combination of at least two independent techniques of dating is necessary for a better level or a better degree of reliability.
C'est donc un degré de
Therefore, a sufficient degree of reliability is what we want to have. The dating technique through through carbon-14 is not challenged, was not questioned. A measurement carried out in 1988 on the shroud show that many samples taken in the same region of the fabric have enough similar concentration of carbon-14, but what the conclusions drawn by this article stress is that we know nothing at all about the contaminations the linen went through the centuries due to, on the one hand, of the high ratio between surface and volume of the fabric, and the fact that the relic was exposed and moved back and forth many times to be worshipped by believers, and this contamination is quite massive. We know nothing at all, or most nothing about the possible chemical interactions between among living organisms which could develop on the surface of the shroud during its existence, or being exposed to air which contains steam and carbon dioxide. So there is an interaction between these components, these elements, and the cellulose or other components of the fabric and the degradation products. All of these interactions tend to make the concentration of carbon-14 be balanced vis-à-vis the concentration of substances in the atmosphere. All of these interactions can cause wrong datings, which we found, luckily not often, on fabrics or organic matters which were not sufficiently insulated. So our conclusion is that a sample, the contamination of which cannot be measured, cannot be dated just through the technique of carbon-14. We cannot get rid of an interdisciplinary exam or investigation including datings through physical means, but this experiment should still be performed. Thank you for your kind attention.